Here is what your December 27th Saturday in the Premier League looked like. In the title race, Arsenal beat Brighton by 2-1 despite a late goal from Diego Gomez. Manchester City get the 2-1 win at the City Ground against Nottingham Forest. And Aston Villa in our game of the day, taking down Chelsea by 2-1. Aston Villa coming from behind in this game after Chelsea opening the scoring through João Pedro. Ollie Watkins with a brace off the bench for the Villains. Unai Emery side with 3 more points alongside Ian Joy. I'm Chris Wittyngham, and Ian, we see again from Aston Villa another impressive display, particularly in the last 30 minutes of the game. I think Chelsea were pretty solid in the first hour, 1-0 in control, but then all of a sudden they let the game get away from them. What did Aston Villa do in your mind to turn this game around?
Listen, I think Unai Emery had a tactical game plan going into this matchup, understanding exactly what he wanted to achieve in this matchup. I think he was looking to steady the ship in the first 45 minutes, give his team an opportunity that in the second period, the second 45, his team can really go for it. I mean, it's crazy to think that they didn't have a single shot in the first 45 minutes. That's only ever happened twice to Unai Emery in his time at Aston Villa in a Premier League game. I think the previous time was actually recently in August against Newcastle, which is crazy. But tactically, that tells me a lot about how Unai Emery was approaching this game. He wanted to be a little bit more pragmatic, understanding that Chelsea had the pressure on their shoulders, Witty. They knew that there was a real opportunity, top fours waiting for them to get one over Aston Villa, this amazing 10-game running streak that they were on. There was a real chance for them to basically take all 3 points and showcase how good Chelsea Football Club really are, how good Maresca is. But unfortunately for Maresca, he was sort of outclassed by an experienced manager who had a game plan going into this one, knowing that second period, if you keep it close, we've got some weapons we can bring off the bench, including Ollie Watkins, who can make the biggest of impacts, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah,
we see the starting lineups here. I think 2 big things changed in the game. One, obviously, they didn't start with Ollie Watkins to bring him on. He gets 2 goals, but also Cole Palmer starts the game, but is not quite fit enough to go the 90 minutes. We saw his frustration over the course of the game.
Yeah.
But getting back to Aston Villa, you mentioned this winning streak that they've been on. It's now 11 games in all competitions. They've won 11 of their last 12 in just the Premier League. What for you has been the catalyst of this winning run, and do you believe it can go on?
I think actually what you're recognising from them across multiple competitions, that they're rotating incredibly well. I mean, they didn't start the season very well, indeed, and there was a bit of pressure even on Unai Emery, maybe a few little chatters about what could potentially happen with him on the sidelines. But actually, they were just waiting for the form to really hit. But once it hit, I don't think even Aston Villa expected this type of a run. To be 11-game winning streaks, quite remarkable, especially for the squad that they've got. Now, is there world-class players in that squad? Probably not. They're not far away. There's very good players in there.
Morgan Rogers, I think, is starting to insert himself into the conversation.
No, he's not there yet. He's not anywhere near that world-class category yet. He might be after the World Cup, and obviously if he gets Aston Villa into top 4 and maybe they win a European trophy, then we can start to have the conversation that Rogers, okay, he's having a good season, right? But it can be great because he's got the potential. But that world-class category is not quite there. But what they actually are is a world-class team, world-class manager. That's what we're recognising with this Aston Villa. So I think that he's got the chemistry just going so well. Every single player kind of understands and respects one another. What you witnessed with the substitutions taking place, obviously, Sancho coming off the bench, Watkins coming off the bench, having an impact as quickly as they did do. The players who were coming off the field, albeit sometimes you can be unhappy, they know their role. They know that there's players who have immense talent sitting on the bench. They can't even get into this guy starting 11. So rotation is key. He's playing it perfectly well, but the substitutes are having the biggest impact. I think it's 8 goals from substitutes this year from Aston Villa, which is quite remarkable. And for Ollie Watkins in particular to have that type of an impact from the bench, to be the match winner and scoring so quickly, 4 minutes after coming onto the field, Chris, that's exceptional to me. That's exactly what Unai Emery wanted. Bench players, impact, back in the game, let's go win it. And that's exactly what they did do.
I do want to make reference to something we showed on the screen just a few moments ago, which was they're the best team at recovering points from losing positions. 18 points now in the Premier League they have recovered from losing positions. But this man, Ollie Watkins, is sort of an interesting narrative arc for him because last season, remember, John Duran started to get on that run. All of a sudden, he gets sold to Saudi Arabia and is now kind of an also-ran in the football conversation. But now Watkins is such a key part, once again, of this Villa side after not scoring earlier in the season. What has he rediscovered in your judgment?
Still more to come from Ollie Watkins. I think the numbers tell us that there's more to come from him, which is pretty scary for everyone else in the Premier League. And of course, Arsenal coming up next for Aston Villa. That's something to be worried about. I think that Ollie Watkins is someone who's always had this immense talent, even through his days in the lower leagues. coming up through Brentford, then getting himself the opportunity with Aston Villa. I think he's got an immense talent. He can be an England international. He can be a real goal scorer. He proved that last year. I think he can be a killer in and around that penalty area. He can score important goals that can lead Aston Villa to success, but we're still left kind of wanting a little bit more. This is probably not the title he will want, but he's a massive impact player off the bench. Coming off the bench and having that type of an impact, scoring a couple of goals in the way that he did do, is killer. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. I think he's the only player to actually score the winning goal on 3 separate occasions at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, which is insane. This guy knows how to get it done, but I'm still left wanting more, and he gave me more today. This was an outstanding individual performance, and if you're going to do your talking, and he's a quiet guy, right? That you don't see him in the media critiquing his manager about, team selection, knocking on doors. No. This guy quietly goes about his business, knows he'll get his opportunity, and he's willing to let his football do the talking. Those stats that we've just been mentioning right there are quite remarkable. Watkins is getting going now, which is scary for everybody else in the Premier League. The question now is, I'm going to ask you, because personally we've been kind of going back and forth a little bit, are they a contender for the Premier League title now?
Yeah, I think that's the next big question to ask. They've won 11 in a row for the first time since 1897 and 1914, which are fantastic. Anytime you can start a statistic referencing history with 18, it's the best. But yeah, I think the title race is now the next big question. You look at the table now after this day, Arsenal 42, Manchester City 40, Aston Villa on 39, 3 points off the lead, and they play at the Emirates on Tuesday.
Yep.
And I think that's the game that everyone's going to be most looking forward to is, can Villa continue to validate this run with a big result now at the Emirates? And I think if they win this game, all of a sudden you start to dream the big dreams if you're a Villa fan.
Yeah.
I personally don't think that they're in it. I know that the table says that they are, but I think in terms of on level of performance, I think they are a step below Arsenal and Manchester City. But if you're a fan, you don't care. You get to dream tonight because your team has won again. You've got another big game on Tuesday. If you turn in a performance, all of a sudden, you're right in that mix halfway through the season.
It's hard to say that they don't have the depth to be able to compete with Manchester City and Arsenal at the top of the table because of the impact we just mentioned there. 8 goals from substitutes off the bench. That's remarkable in itself. But when you look at the table, they're very much in the race. I mean, they're so close. They're a victory away from obviously joining Arsenal level on points. It gives Manchester City their opportunity, I think it is on New Year's Day against Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. That's not an easy game, obviously, for them to look forward to. But let's look at the big picture of that game against an Arsenal side. Now, unfortunately, picking up yellow cards is costly for a lot of players. Matty Cash is going to miss that game now, I think, through yellow card accumulation. And I think it's Kamara's the other one who's going to miss out. There's 2 big players who are going to miss out on that game, which is a big loss, I think. And Matty Cash in particular is a big loss for them as well. But I think that Aston Villa will go there understanding that they have a manager who has a history with that football club, that will also have a game plan that he might understand, okay, is it about getting the victory or is it about getting a draw and keeping in the race? I find it very hard to say that this guy's going to lose. That's for sure right now. And after watching Arsenal perform this weekend, and actually over the last 2 or 3 match days, they're far from convincing Arsenal. So there's an opportunity for Aston Villa to go there and really spring a surprise. But one thing's for sure, Aston Villa proved to all of us that they're in contention. They're probably there or thereabouts. Will they win it? Probably not. I agree with you there. But I do think they're in contention. But the other thing that proved to us today is that Chelsea have got some problems, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's get to Chelsea now on the subject of this game, because they did play very well for an hour, but this is sort of the overall theme with Chelsea, is a level of inconsistency within games and from match to match in terms of the level of performance. They seem like they found an 11 that they've settled on, but there's just something in the way that this team comes out game in and game out where they're unable to replicate their best kind of performances, the kind of performance that won them the Club World Cup, that saw them play well at times in this Champions League so far. What for you is missing in that inconsistency that we don't see Chelsea in and around that top 3?
I don't see Chelsea taking their chances. I don't. I think they create enough chances. That first 45 minutes proved to us that they're very much able to compete with the likes of Aston Villa, your Arsenals and Manchester Cities of this world. They have the talent offensively. I don't think they're scoring enough goals. They create enough around the penalty area. They look pretty pleasing on the eye, but then all of a sudden they sort of fade away. Like Garnacho, how many times did he sort of think about it, go for goal, come back, cut back, simple pass? How many times did we see Cole Palmer chop, trying to find space, couldn't find it, pass? Then we see Neto doing the same. And obviously, for João Pedro to get the goals, great, but I want to see a little bit more from Chelsea Football Club. I'm left disappointed with them because they do play good football at times. But I felt like they were outcoached, they were outmanaged. Maresca got taught a bit of a lesson by a very experienced Unai Emery, and that's a big disappointment for Chelsea Football Club. Now, I made the biggest mistake, Chris, and you know me well. I do my research, but I made the biggest mistake by going and listening to Chelsea fans after this game. On the phone, blitzing away about their frustrations. And what I heard from Chelsea fans is, it's time for Maresca to go. This is enough. I've had enough of this. Too many bad decisions, team selection, tactical. He was outcoached. Let's give him a little bit of praise for what he did do last season. And I actually think that Chelsea fans are a bit critical, actually, of the trophy that they won last season with UEFA. That was a big trophy. I still think it's a major trophy. I think the FIFA Club World Cup's even bigger example as to how good Maresca can be and how good this Chelsea Football Club can potentially be. But in this match in particular, he was certainly outcoached by a very experienced man who knew exactly what he was doing. He gave Chelsea the opportunity in the first 45 minutes. Enjoy the ball. Let's see what you got to break us down. They got themselves a goal. Things were looking good. Even the bookmakers said, hey, you know what? Chelsea probably going to go and win this game. They kind of ruled Aston Villa out. And then all of a sudden, that experience told a tale in the second period. Maresca didn't have any answers. He was sort of gambling at the end, trying to make changes to get back into the game. And then when Watkins got that second goal, I felt like it was a big slap in the face to everyone at Chelsea Football Club. I would like to say this, though, to all Chelsea fans out there. Be patient. All you ones who are out there asking for him to be fired. Come on, man. Consistency is so important for Chelsea Football Club. This guy is a very, very good coach, and he's young. He came from the Championship to this opportunity. And I know he's been a part of a very successful Pep Guardiola coaching staff, but he came from the Championship where he had success. Let's give him time. Let's give him a moment to learn from these types of mistakes. And of course, give him some time to be able to get players healthy and find exactly who his starting 11 is and find out exactly who the players are that can come off and have an impact from the bench. I mean, the team didn't even have a pre-season, Witty, so we got to cut him just a little bit of slack, I feel.
But if there's one thing we've learned from the Abramovich era to now, patience is not a virtue at Chelsea Football Club. So Maresca will certainly be under pressure as Aston Villa come from a goal behind to beat Chelsea by 2-1 on this match day 18 of the Premier League.